There we go. Now the party can officially start. Now everybody's going to be really quiet. But yeah, that art model is going to build into a really cool boat. I have to do a full build up. Honestly, it's such a common boat. I just actually yesterday got my new shipment of kits in. I got 12 of them from China. There we go. Okay. Whoops. So I don't know if you guys were following or not. I just got back from Florida yesterday. I flew from here to Fort Lauderdale, picked up 5 boats from Dwayne, and then drove 4 hours to see Ken in Leesburg, overnighted there for about 5 hours, and then left at 3 a.m. to drive from Leesburg to Woodlands. So that was a 14-hour drive, and I had 9 subs and 1 surface ship in the back of a minivan. That was fun, organizationally speaking, to get them all in there.
Were they in protective boxes or anything?
Nope.
Of course.
Nope, none of them. I'll share a picture here in a second.
What about that Keurig box I noticed? Did you really bring a coffee maker with you for the trip?
No, that was like extra garbage that Dwayne had left over, and he threw it in the back. He's like, oh, maybe you can use it to block up a boat. And I'm like, you just don't want to throw it away.
It did make sense for a long trip like that. Have a coffee maker with you.
Yep.
Yep, a coffee machine and a piss bucket.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. So let me share this out. This was just as I was parked outside Dwayne's. So this is just the 5 subs and the surface ship.
Well, all you need was one good rear ender.
Well, yeah. I'd be worried about a lot more than the boats if I got rear-ended.
Yeah, it'd have to be surgically removed.
This is true. And the crappy thing is, I had assumed I was going to get like a Grand Caravan or something, but I ended up with this base model Honda Odyssey. And the middle row of seats doesn't fold down, so you have to like pick them up and like remove them. So you see them in the front.
Yeah.
Nestled in the front seat with a seatbelt over them.
What a jury rig.
Yeah, that was a disaster for sure.
Well, you arrived alive. That's what counts.
Yeah, and then this is them back as of this morning. All of the boats. So the ones I picked, there was all of them except these 2 in the top right corner. There was the Trafalgar, the 214. Hiding behind there's a big S-class. We got the Castle class Corvette, the Type 2, a 212, a 209, an R-class, an Ohio, Tench, and Oberon.
You scored.
Well, well, yeah, I would say, but I mean the dry docks coffers are a little dusty right now. There's not a lot in them.
Well, that's all Dwayne's work, right?
Well, half of it is Dwayne's and half of them are Ken's.
Well, don't go cheap. Make some money at this.
It's all good. We're going to start running them through one at a time in the order that they were bought. So,
okay.
And I think Vaughn's here. So here's his boat sitting up on the shelf.
Yes, I'm here and I can't wait. I don't have my camera on because I'm actually laying down to make sure I'm okay. I kind of tweaked my back last week, so.
Oh no.
So I got to make sure that I'm good to go next week. So.
Well, I'll bring a jar, and every time we need to move your boat, you can put a quarter in, and I'll move it for you.
There you go. I'll pay it. I'll maybe even more.
You are a true mercenary, Bob.
Hey, like I said, coffers are dry. I gotta put food on the table.
Well, I'll help you with that next week, especially if the propeller is good on that 212.
This is Ken's, I don't know what scale it is, but all metal RC tank.
Oh, that's impressive.
That was crazy.
Whoa.
Holy crap. How much does it weigh?
90 pounds?
Traction is not an issue.
No, but it's got like a laser sighted BB cannon, sound, smoke, like it's crazy. I was telling him, like, I don't know why, but I need it. I don't know what I'd do with it if I got it, but I need this.
Cue the Panzer song.
Yeah.
Just don't run over the wife's foot.
No. Yeah, I don't know how much those are, but I know they're not cheap. That's all machined aluminum, the whole thing.
Wow, that's impressive. That's a nice haul of subs. I'm looking forward to maybe relieving you of a couple of those.
Yeah. Well, I believe, and I haven't checked the site, I think they're all spoken for.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But on Saturday, I don't know what the logistics are. I was actually going to ask Ed, for next weekend, are you just going to drive down the morning of and then drive back the night of, or what's your plan?
Yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Okay, all right.
It's open-ended, but.
Yeah, and I've gone from not attending to 80% sure I can come, and I'll probably ride with Ed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Now, is this a 1 or a 2-day event, Bob?
It's just one, but it's kind of like turning into multiple. I think he's not here, but Steve is coming out, I think, on Friday.
Yeah, Steve Hodge.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do in the best tradition of these events, maybe like Friday night, we'll do like a dinner out somewhere. The issue is, I've had this up forever with strict instructions, please RSVP, and so far there's only 3 people showing up. So
yeah, my apologies. My plans just changed in the last day or so. So
no, that's fine, because you haven't said you're coming, but
no, O'Connell, you ruined it for everybody. Nice work, pal.
sorry, I wasn't thinking. But then
Bob, you got me on there, don't you, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn coming? Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's 4.
I'm kind of ignorant here. Is this the Mr. Schmidt of gorgeous 571 Nautilus fame?
No.
Different Schmidt. Okay.
No, I've got the 27-foot long Typhoon, not scale. That's all I got right now.
Are you giving rides?
27 foot?
We shared those pictures. Remember, that was like in that garage hanging from the ceiling with like the fold down side. It was mounted on a golf cart. Were you not there that DiveTribe?
I don't recall that. That's impressive.
I shared the pictures with everybody.
Yeah, so I've been looking at putting some wireless trolling motors inside of it so that I can actually wirelessly drive it on the lake.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
For fun.
Well, this is all for fun.
I don't know why you.
That way I could make it
so complicated. You could just sit in it and drive the thing.
Now we know how Mr. Schmidt hurt his back.
Yes.
Yes.
Mystery revealed.
There you go.
It would make a great float at next week's party, especially given the state of world affairs today.
Yeah.
Get us all carpet bombed there. Nice work, Ed.
Somehow the Russians got a typhoon in the lake in the middle of Texas.
Yeah, that might be confusing, just big enough to confuse some Navy ASW crews. I don't know if I'd run that real close to shore.
Right.
Well, that was my goal, was to somehow get it on just a peninsula up there on Lake Grapevine, put my jet ski inside of it. Of course, I have to vent it so that I don't suffocate myself. and at least put around the calm areas there. But it won't look really good because I'm sure with all the foam, it's going to float so high that I think the props will probably be barely touching the water.
Vaughn, are you talking about the Grapevine here in Dallas?
Yes. Yeah, I just live here in Keller.
Oh, okay, very good. I just spent 5 days at the Gaylord Texan there at a conference, so.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, that's just, that's right on the lake there.
We were
Yeah,
just
I
we were
live
just
about
up there
40
a few
minutes
weeks
north in
ago.
Aubrey.
Someone was just talking, they said they were there.
Sorry, I was just there a couple of weeks ago for Renee's birthday.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's a neat place. Yeah, I was just saying to Vaughn, I live about 40 minutes north in Aubrey, just out of Denton. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, you probably know Ed lives just a little ways south.
Yeah. Yeah, Ed's down, my in-laws used to have a lake house on Resin Chambers Reservoir.
Okay.
That was a nice lake.
So I've got.
Yeah, but one day I'm going to launch that. Somehow I'm going to get that on the lake for pictures somehow.
We should just schedule like a work day, and we'll all come up and give you a hand, and we'll get it all figured out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be a hoot.
That would be awesome.
I'm trying to figure out if I need to make a dolly for it that I could roll, maybe like an 8-wheel dolly that I could just roll it down, the wheels would stay on there. But if I put a jet ski in it, the nose needs to come up so that I can get the jet ski, because the nose is hinged like a big cargo transport airplane.
Yeah.
So that's how you hinge it to get the golf cart in. So I'd have to get the jet ski in there, or I needed to make it a really large radio control to put around. Now it won't dive, but
Oh, we'll make it.
that would be fun. I don't know.
Guarantee you can make it go down once.
Yeah,
Coming back's that's the trick of this hobby.
there is so much foam. It's mostly foam, but that would be displacing a lot of water. I can't imagine how much weight it would take to get that down.
Well, like I said,
I don't know.
we'll figure it out. Like I'm kind of halfway serious. Like if that feels like something that you'd be interested in doing, it feels like a trip up to make a plan, come up with an equipment list and a strategy for doing it, and then another day for implementation. I think we could make it happen.
That would be cool.
A carload of depleted uranium would do it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That's my goal before my back goes too bad, is to get that on the water somehow. There's wood in the back that I'd probably try and treat a little bit better. Some of it's actually masonite in the fin area. So I wouldn't want to keep it on the water too long, because I really don't want to destroy it yet.
Don't treat the wood. It'll just keep the water it's got in there, so it'll rot quicker.
Well, that's a good point, David.
That
I
thing
might have
spends
to.
1/2 of 1% of the time in the water, the rest drying out. Let it dry out.
Yeah.
That's a
what I'm
good point.
thinking too.
Good point.
Guess how I learned
Yeah.
that trick.
Yeah.
Well, I would say your experience, David, is probably way significant, more than mine is. So,
A lifetime of mistakes. Yes.
isn't that how we learn best, though? By screwing
Bingo.
something up.
Yep. Who was it was telling? Oh, I was sitting having lunch with Dwayne Hill, and he was telling me, was it Mike Dory? Way back in the day, he had a big boat with the old style dry hulls with the lids on it, and he sent his boat out, and it was going around on the lake and dove it, and then he suddenly stopped, and he's like, I didn't put the lids on my dry compartments.
No.
So he's like, just speaking of never make the same mistake twice, it takes dunking your boat to remember to create a checklist to put the lid back on.
Wow.
That's like leaving the drain plug out of your boat or your jet skis, which I've done.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly like that. This is a little more significant because
Yeah, the drain hole isn't quite as dramatic as leaving your lids off.
bloop, yep, down she goes.
Yeah.
I got visions of the Edmund Fitzgerald with the hatch covers coming off.
That's crazy.
You're gone.
So I want to share with you guys, and I'm going to turn it over because Dave's got a show and tell, a little how-to that he's going to share with everybody. But I've got this. This has been like a challenging boat. So this is that 72nd scale Seawolf I've been working on. So originally, I built it out for like basic operations, and the gentleman that commissioned me to build this thing, it was like a long time ago. It was like 8 months ago. And I finally got around to building it. And then like an idiot, I didn't go back through all of the correspondence. And so there were a bunch of features that he wanted implemented that I had charged him for that I neglected to implement. So I put it out on the lake, tested it, got ready to ship it. And then I noticed, oh shit, I had all of these other things I needed to do, including bow thrusters and the video camera and the LED lights and all of this stuff. But this boat is the second boat in my 30 years of building RC submarines. Well, no, 22 years of building RC submarines that I had to go and get wet for, that sunk. So this has an OTW dive module in it. And if you guys are familiar with the OTW dive modules, in some of the configurations, the ballast tank is vented to the dry compartments with a little pinhole. And that equalizes the air pressure a little bit so that the pump doesn't need to work as hard to fill the ballast tank up. But it relies very much on these sensors to tell it when it's full or not. Well, Bob Dimack, for a little while, because he was running into supply issues, stopped supplying the cylinders with his dive controller, the circuit board that controls that with the probes, and he just shipped it out with a speed controller to control the pumps, which works perfectly fine, but it's up to the operator to stop the flooding when the boat is at the appropriate, level of buoyancy. So when we took this out, what actually ended up happening, the ESC packed it in, and instead of just dying, it decided to continue pumping. And so it filled the ballast tank all the way to the top and then spewed water into the forward pump compartment. And down she went in about 8 feet of water, 40 feet from shore. Water temperature was about 45 degrees. If you care. Yeah. So, and of course, for the second time, I didn't have my checklist of things to bring. No swimming trunks, no goggles, no nothing. So stripped down to my underwear and went into the water. And but we managed to find it. But the cool thing is the onboard video camera was recording the whole time. So next week I'm going to have some video footage up of the loss and recovery of SSN 22 from the murky depths of the Creekwood Park pool.
It's
We're
gonna
not
look
gonna
like an
see in your-
episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah.
We're not
Not gonna
gonna
see
see
in your underwear, are we?
swimming
No.
up to it, are we?
No. No, fortunately not. It'll just be the footage just from the video camera.
Is this the same one you took on sea trials with a dead battery?
Yep. It's like a quasi cursed boat. Until this one, this was the final like maiden voyage. We had it out last Wednesday, I think, to the pond, and she finally had her successful test. And so everything's in there, everything was working, everything worked really well.
What's the rear mast on it? It's so big.
That's the snorkel intake, or wait, no, that's the 2.4 gigahertz antenna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got it up there. But this will the stern thrusters work really, really well in this boat. If anybody is like considering implementing it, so you can see the kind of the swirling on the starboard side. Well, geez, it didn't really. I have a separate video of it working better. But at any rate, because the rudders work so poorly on this boat, unless you're really, really moving, and it's fairly sizable. It's like 5 feet long. It really adds to the enjoyment to be able to turn the boat around and get it coming back to you instead of having to do like a 40-foot diameter circle to get it coming back towards you. So I'll have a full video of that one. And then this was the other boat. This is Dwayne's Type 7. And we had the successful sea trials for her same day. She gets up and moves. That's not exactly scale speed. But it was still fun. So that was my story. Look for the gripping tale of the loss of SSN 22 coming next week. Which is actually isn't 22. That's the same. That's Connecticut, wasn't it? Wasn't that the boat that sank that they lost just a little while ago, a couple months ago in the China Sea?
They did
Well,
lose her.
But she hit something, right?
Yeah, it should be 21 if it's Seawolf.
Yeah. Took the CO, the XO, the Cobb, and the nav were pulled off the boat after they actually did the investigation, and they pulled off that before. What do they call that? Oh God, lack of confidence.
Ability to command, yeah.
Yeah.
Bouncing off the bottom.
Yeah, the Navy has a tradition of taking a head if you touch the ground.
Yeah.
I would think so, of a multi-billion-dollar submarine or whatever they are.
Absolute power, absolute consequence.
Yep.
You know, I read Nimitz's biography, and he actually, while he had the deck of a destroyer as a junior officer, he ran it aground. And he was absolved of it because there was extenuating circumstances where he could absolutely not have known that shoal was there. And you think about what would have happened to the future if he had been, gotten a black mark. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. I can't imagine the ramifications of running a destroyer aground.
Yeah, well, they were smaller at the time, but still.
It's a not insignificant boat.
No, but yeah, it wasn't on the charts, and there's the charts in those days were horrible for the South Pacific and the areas around China, which is where it happened. So
When I was in a dive locker on Yosemite, we were a destroyer tender, and 90% of our work was screw changes because these dickheads would be running aground all of the time.
yeah,
And he would always say, "Nope, we hit a deadhead." Well, okay, how come I'm pulling coral out of this thing?
yeah. Yeah, you should read the story of there was a woman who was CEO of the Winston Churchill, one of the Arleigh Burkes, and she was leaving port, I think in Naples, and went too hard, too fast. And the Burkes, like a lot of destroyers, will squat really hard when they're accelerating. And those gorgeous, big, huge variable pitch wheels hit the bottom. And she somehow survived that. I think she went on to command a Ticonderoga class cruiser. They finally were able to get rid of her. She was a piece of work.
It's like that F-14 pilot. She kills herself off of a carrier,
Yeah.
and then tasks the Navy to get the body because it was a female pilot.
Yeah.
Anybody else would be crab meat.
Yeah, ramp strike. Bad news.
Wow.
Bullshit.
All right, Mr. Krabby Pants, let's do your show and tell.
Okay. More and more of us are building plastic model kits. Assembling plastic model kits. This is the 1144 Trumpeter Kit of the Chinese SSBN. I presume it's pronounced Aya class, the X being silent in Mandarin. So anyway, this plastic model kit's pretty good. Wall thickness isn't terribly bad. Therefore, the displacement of the above waterline structures is not too bad. So you can get this thing to float at design waterline and still be able to submerge. The trick I want to show you, which is applicable to all the plastic model kits, particularly those where the limber holes are represented as indentations and not complete bore-throughs, is I'm going to show you how to identify where to open those things up in a technique that makes opening them up easier. It's much easier to open up a hole through a structure that has a wall thickness of 20 thousandths of an inch rather than 90 thousandths of an inch. So naturally, you want to go on the inside of the model and hack away. Let's see if we can get a picture of this. Now, I've opened up these limber holes only after I had machined away from the inside a substantial portion of the wall. And that was done, of course, with a moto tool and a burr. The trick is, well, how do you know from the inside where you don't have any markings to indicate like you have on the outside? Now, on the outside, you can see some of the limber holes have already started and the indentations which denote where you got to open these things up. If you work from the outside, you got to blast through 90 thousandths worth of plastic before you have a hole. And like I said, you want to grind away from the inside. The trick, of course, is to backlight the outside so that you can identify from the inside where those indentations are. Now, this is a light bar, and I liberated this thing and its power supply from a backlighting table, which I bought for about 15 bucks. So I discarded the table. As you can see, you got 3 settings here. Damn thing's a lightsaber. What you want to do is put it on the outside of the model. I promise not to take too long at this. What I'm doing is I'm strapping it to the outside with tape, like so. Here we are. So I got the light bar on there. I turn it on. Okay. Now, you can see, because you can clearly see where all the limber holes are. And from this point, you go in there with your tool and you start hacking and slashing. And before you know it, you're down to the level where those indentations are. Let me turn this thing off. There we are. So once you've ground this thing away, you begin to see daylight through the indentations. That means you're down where the wall thickness is down to about 20 to 30 thousandths. And by the way, that equates pretty much to half-inch plate at a 1/44 scale. So you've done 2 things. You certainly minimize the amount of grinding you got to do, drilling, grinding, work with files to get the hole proper. But you, at the same time, you've gotten down to a credible scale thickness of the outer plating that surrounds the limber hole. So you're getting 2 birds with 1 stone. 3, if you also want to count the material you just took away from above waterline areas, further reducing the displacement, reducing the requirement of the ballast water you need to move to get this thing underwater. So once you've opened up the hole, you refine the shape with an X-Acto and files. And to clean everything up, some triple odd steel wool. And the work goes very quickly, and you're not going to be buggering up the work because you're only taking it to the depth of the indentations, no farther. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, that's very slick. And I know a lot of those plastic model kits don't, I assume it's because of the injection molding process. They don't like making the through holes, right? They like to have it flow through.
There's 2 things that work. Yeah, going through is fine, and it has to do with tool design. We're talking about injection form tools. Typically, it's a 2-piece tool with a separation plane, and to get good extractions, you always want your angular displacement to be less than a vertical, and that's described as draft. You want positive draft. In other words, you won't have a lock-in situation once you've squirted your plastic and it's hardened and you open the tool. All of a sudden you're trapped because you had negative draft. zero draft is almost as bad. So they always endeavor when they design that kit, and you'll see this artifact in the limber holes, particularly limber holes which are not at the bottom, but at the side of the hull. You'll notice that there's a little bit of a lip on the lower portion and not as much on the upper. That's a concession to draft, to create enough draft to ensure a good parting of the injection form part on extraction. And kits are designed to be pooped out hundreds a day, all right? And that means the machine's probably going to go through a 1 or 2 minute cycle. That's pretty quick to us, but to them, time is money, because those machines are not just done for this particular model. Those machines are multi-purpose. They put a new set of tools in after a production run of, let's say, 1,000 units. Then they'll go ahead and spend a week lining things up to get another set of tools aligned correctly and working. And then it's only worth their time to do thousands at a time. That's why you don't see these kits out there, because they're not selling thousands at a time. But all right, I'm getting a little far afield here. But the artifacts of the limber hole shape is a consequence of maintaining positive draft in the production tools.
Yeah, that is awesome. We have to, what we need to do is get more smaller cylinders out there so that we can really start leveraging these kits that are.
Well, the idiot who used to make them ain't making no more.
And to be honest, even if I would have had the bandwidth, I would never have undertaken making such tiny cylinders in the first place.
You're no fool.
I'm still utterly baffled at what possessed you to build an 1.25" diameter watertight cylinder.
Deep self-hatred.
Just to see if you could do it. Bragging rights.
Well, you want a real nutball, that they would have to be Manfred and Steve Chauflant.
Well, aren't we pushing towards keeping the electronics in the wet now? Having to sort of, you know, other than ballast.
What do you
Right.
mean, we, Kemosabe?
I mean, you too, you talked about it recently.
I talked about it just to string you guys along. And then you all chase that rabbit up the hole of, let's make a watertight servo.
Yeah, Italian salute.
We're watching you guys play with it, but you still haven't proved it's worth doing yet, in my opinion.
This is
It
true.
works fine. Other than the receiver, I have everything in the wet and it works fine.
Talk to me next season.
It looks to me like waterproofing the wiring is worse than waterproofing a servo rod. So I don't understand it, to be honest.
Yeah, but my electronics don't decay quicker because of the minor leaks in the watertight spaces.
Yeah, minor
He's
leaks.
right though. He's right. Somebody actually needs to. Well, and Ed, if you've got it, you've got to. It doesn't happen unless it's on video and posted to YouTube. So we're going to need to go through the design and post it up, and then a year later, because it was the same thing when I made that waterproof servo thing. It was working fine. It worked for a long. But people are like, a year later, they're like, "So how's the servo holding up?" I'm like,
Oh, that.
I want to.
You know what? Getting back on that servo thing, what Nick was doing was the right stuff, and his recent problem was just getting the diaphragm to stick, and that's a mechanical problem. And frankly, Nick is probably sick and tired of that, and he's quite right. That's a $2 servo, right? But it's applicable to any servo.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can go ahead and oil impregnate that thing and keep it equalized, that'll be there forever. When I was in the Navy, we had this thing called the Curve 2, which was a deep submergence RV. And everything except for 2 pressure vessels was oil filled and compensated. And that stuff worked year after year after year in the most nasty Canadian weather you could imagine. Sorry, Bob.
I'm glad you stipulated Canadian weather.
Yeah, Straits of Juan de Fuca up there by Nanaimo Bay. Oh, jeez.
But that's like beautiful water. What are you talking about?
Yeah, in summer. Yeah, it's beautiful in summer.
Well, speaking of like kits and stuff, I wanted to share this out if you hadn't seen it. For fans of the Nautilus, so I was previously getting these kits from a company out of California. I got the rights to manufacture from Scott Brodeen. These are the little 31-inch kits. And I think, Dave, have you ever played with metal impregnation for resin casting?
Yes.
So the idea behind this, it's actually really cool. So the resin, when these parts are cast, the molds are dusted with actual metal powder, like metal flakes, which actually acts the same as talc, which is another trick that Dave taught me a long time ago. If you talc a mold or powder it with like cornstarch, the resin will get sucked into all the voids and scribe lines, as opposed to wanting to trap an air bubble. So we get a double with this one. So we're actually using metal powder in the molds for these kits now, and it'll be the same with the 31 and the new 48-inch kits. So when it comes out, they look like this, which actually kind of looks pre-painted. So it's like an antique kind of weathered, rusty looking mold, or a cast part. So many people get their shorts in a knot because they're scared to death of painting these kits because they're so weathered. At least now they'll be able to just like glue it together and call it good. But the other cool thing about it, and I don't know if I'll be able to find this, I'm stealing this from my video. You can see on the right-hand side of where this deck is, that's raw cast part. But on the left, on the starboard side, if you take some steel wool and you rub it, it'll actually burnish the resin, and it'll have a metallic sheen, a gloss metallic sheen to it. So I'm super excited. So for those people that want like a real metallic look, you can actually burnish this with some steel wool, and you'll get that shine out from underneath to make it look like a metal boat. So I'm super stoked about this. The new kits I started selling them now, and we'll be delivering by the probably end of April. I'll be going out this coming week to pick up the first 10 kits. And then
Bob, a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I'm glad you brought this up. So I've had this in my the purchase box a couple of times because I want a Nautilus. You've known that from the beginning, but I kind of want to hold out for the larger scale. How far out do you think you're going to be on that?
So this is where we're at with this. So I'm not going to name names. The company out of California took a perfectly good rotocast mold, and Dave's seen it and worked on it, and basically obliterated it and then redid it so that it looks more like this with a top and bottom, which is fine. But he did the splits weird, and the upper and lower hulls don't actually mate. You need to use the side keels to generate spacing. So what we're actually doing next week when we pick up the first 10 31-inch hulls, we're going to be grabbing the first test pulls from the 48 molds. We're going to bring them back to the shop, and we're going to join them back together. So we're going to have the upper and lower hull as one piece. And those are going to be rotocast to a thickness probably of between 3/16 and 1/4 of an inch, depending on what we feel like we want to do. Because that is going to make it far easier for the builder. Static builder, you just glue the side keels on and you're done. But the RC builder will be able to determine where they want to put the hull split. You could do it at the water line, you could do it under the side keels, you can do whatever you want. And the other thing, and Ed knows this, is if you don't build the kit for months or years, warpage is going to be mitigated to a much higher degree. So this is what we're gonna end up doing. But back to your question, we're picking those up next week. We'll get those glued together and back to him. So I'm hoping probably April or May we'll be releasing the new version of this kit, and it'll be just a big version of what you see here with the same metal impregnated resin, a one-piece main hull, and just a ton of really cool upgrades.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I was kind of curious because I watched your video. I think you used a modular system for this size Nautilus that
I did, yeah.
you've shown. What is your plan kind of, if you buy a kit, is that something you can buy, or you're gonna have to scratch build that yourself if I wanted one? Or
For
what do you plan to
RC the
do?
48-inch?
No, the smaller one. Well, for both, actually.
Well, what I hope to do is, now that I've done proof of concept with this in the first, I'll tweak the design, having done it once, and then I'll offer up the component list for people to either purchase to purchase it from me. Just because I have no plans right now to make a 2-inch diameter watertight cylinder, which is what this requires. The smallest I think I'm going to go is 2.5 inches. And I've already got the prototypes for that worked out. The 48 is a totally different beast. I've already got the cylinder for that. It's going to be the 300 series subdriver with the 3 3/4 tank. And I'm actually going to have a video of the installation of that cylinder in the lower hull of a 48-inch kit that a customer got me to do coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see that exact cylinder in that exact model, installed with the bulkheads, the servos, the linkages, tilting propeller assembly, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool. Well, I'll probably have to talk to you next week about which one to get. So I'm trying to decide what scale. I want one or the other. So well, I'll bend your ear next week.
It's 100% on where you're going to run it. This little 31-inch boat is such a blast, like in a pool, because it'll turn around in like 5 feet. It'll spin around and dive and come back up. It's so maneuverable. It's so much fun.
And I am more looking for it for a pool. Would the 48-inch one run in a pool well enough? Of course, obviously the pool size makes a difference.
But I mean, if this is turning around in 5 feet, I'm thinking you're probably going to need 8 feet, 9 feet turning diameter for the 48-inch boat, which means, rather than being able to go wherever you want and do whatever you want with the 31, you'll be kind of constrained to like ovals or figure eights, in a pool for the 48.
Okay, so maybe I need to be at the 31-inch and buy one of these, and then hopefully you'll have a kit out soon enough for a list of parts to fill up the insides.
I think you need one of each, actually. I think you should have 2 of each. You should have backup.
Well, that may be. Maybe I do need one of each. Who knows? But I need at least one of one scale.
Yeah, understood. But yeah, I wanted to bring up this whole idea of metal impregnated resin. The other thing that it does, the metal flakes actually create a higher degree of rigidity in the parts as well. So it helps with cast resin part rigidity, and it, in theory, should also help a little bit with warpage.
Yeah, and for a newbie like me that's afraid of doing the weathering so this idea that you have for the Nautilus, I think would be great for someone like me.
That was the idea. Yeah, a little bit of steel wool and off to the races.
There you go. Yeah, I did have a question though, because I had it in my bin to order this, but I didn't know if I needed to get the photo etch parts or not with this kit. Does it matter?
Well, if you're going to go RC, I probably would. Now, the only thing, like these, and Dave has many videos, and we've talked about this before. This kit is cast really thick. It's like 1/4 of an inch thick.
Wow.
Yeah, it's heavy duty, but it's perfectly fine. And obviously, I've built probably 15 of these for RC over my years. But you can just drill air holes, and it works perfectly fine. But if you've got the wherewithal to gouge out, the areas of the decking that would be open, and then glue the photo etch on top, it'll look much more realistic, and it'll give you a lot more, air venting, so to speak.
That sounds like the way to go. Get the
If you
photo
have
etched too.
access to a milling machine and know how to make holding fixtures for the bed, that's the way to grind out the inside on the upper hull.
Hmm.
So you just need
Well,
to
I
have,
haven't-
you need to have an expert machinist and a milling machine and specialized tooling, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's all you need, a couple $1,000 worth of equipment or more, right? I'll probably go with the photo etching. Oh, well, that's good information. Thank you.
You bet.
Oh, don't go cheap on us now.
Well, yeah.
You'll need the milling machine eventually. Everybody needs a milling machine.
Well, I have a CNC machine, but I'd have to have all the programming, and it does have a touch probe, but I have to go in and touch probe the whole inside. I don't know if I've got that kind of capability and then let it cut, but that sounds like a little too deep for me.
One thing I played with, Dave, and maybe you got some input to this, I toyed with the idea of doing a fiberglass layup for the top half of the top half, and then pouring the resin in, keeping the mold flat, letting the casting resin set up. So from the side keel up to about halfway, it would be cast resin, and then thin fiberglass for anything above the surfaced water line.
So you're talking about using polyurethane resin as a gel coat?
No, I would do like a standard, epoxy fiberglass layup in the top hull, the top part of the top hull.
Stop right there. You know as well as anybody else that is the most difficult thing to get without any bubbles because of all those friggin' rivets, right?
Yeah.
And when you were over here, I advocated spraying in the gel coat, all right?
Right.
All right, so you'd have to go through that gel coat, lay up your glass, and then you're advocating putting casting resin over the shell from the inside?
No, because the mate between the upper and lower hull is critical, right? They key together. So I don't want to goof around with that. So my thought was I would only spray. So we got the top hull half flipped upside down. So it's a bowl, right? For lack of a better term. Spray the gel coat in the bottom of the bowl, let it kick off, lay a layer of fiberglass, let it kick off. But I'm not doing the whole mold, just the bottom of the bowl, which would equate to everything that would be above the surfaced water line. Now use it like the real like it was meant to be. Put the mold together, fill it with half full of resin, drop the mold so it's flat so that it cures just the bottom part, and then you've got a thin shell on the top and a thick shell on the bottom.
As long as there's no significant shrinkage so that the later resin won't creep underneath the glass part.
Oh, yeah.
You got a good fix there. I like that.
That's a lot I'd have to charge $1 million for that. That's a lot of work.
Oh, man, you're providing a service.
It was a thought. I need to play with the molds and see if that would work.
That's and it's a rubber tool, right?
Yep.
No harm, no foul.
It's literally two like 30-pound blocks of rubber.
Okay, all right. And it's in a fiberglass mother mold?
Nope.
It's just loose?
It is literally a gigantic coffin-shaped chunk of rubber.
And it's not in a box?
Nope.
Well, what keeps it from sagging and distorting when you're moving it around?
The fact that the rubber is like 6 inches thick. And then you clamp it together with the boards and blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, we're getting deep into the technical aspects of casting. I don't know if anybody cares about that, but at any rate.
I love hearing about it. It's interesting. I don't know where I'm going to go with this hobby, but whenever you guys talk about stuff, I love just, I place it somewhere, I take notes. So I don't know where I'm going to go in the hobby. You never know. So I love hearing it.
What'd be really cool is like on piggybacking on an event like the Trim Party, have everybody come out like a day before to the shop, and we could just like make a quick and dirty nasty mold, and we could like lay up a fiberglass hull, and we could do all sorts of things that would be interesting to people, you know, in person. It's hard to do, you know, like a video on, but when you're there and you work on it, you know, all day, then
So what time Friday you want us there?
hey, I'm gonna be at the shop all day.
Well, you know, Steve and I will be there a little early, probably before noon.
On Friday.
Apparently I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, on
real
Friday.
early.
What time did this start?
Well, I mean, anybody can buy anytime during the week. I
No,
don't care when.
What time did this meeting start?
Oh, at 3.
53 minutes ago.
He's
Way
on
to go.
Central, he's Central
go.
Time.
Way to go, Merriman. You sent me the wrong time.
Suck it. I gave you a goddamn time zone map.
You gave me 4 o'clock.
That's
Central
right.
Time.
4 o'clock my
Central
time. 4
Get
o'clock
your-
my time.
I'm gonna tell you something. This is my cuss jar since I started hanging around this guy. And, you know, it just gets worse every day. 4 o'clock, I can show you on my phone, 4 o'clock Central Time is what you said.
It's and you're early. Good for you.
I'm in Central Time.
I'm in Central Time too.
You know, dumbass over there's in Eastern. It started at 4 o'clock his time.
Yeah, come back tomorrow and you'll be okay.
Hey, real quick, Bob, can I send you something?
Sure. I love when people send me things.
Can I send you a microphone that you can clip on your shirt where you don't sound like you're in a manhole?
Like right now or in my videos? What are you talking about?
Your audio sounds like you're in a storm drain.
Oh, really?
You sound fine.
No, I'm with Casey on that.
Oh, boy, your age is showing, guys. Get a set of
Yeah.
headphones.
Well, I can't make it to the thing, so I'm just getting my light licks in while I can. But Bob, you hit it again on the weather. Looks like it's going to be around 77 and sunny.
I know. I don't know what the heck is going on, but like last 2 subfests, and the fact that the first one wasn't that like in the middle of a hurricane or something?
The first
Wasn't
one,
there
yeah.
something like that going on?
Yeah, the hurricane
Go
was,
down through a hurricane to get.
it was
to.
after the hurricane.
So we're lucky. We got some sort of karma thing going on.
Oh, here, Merriman, up yours.
All right, my wife is home from her hair appointment, so I got 4 minutes left. Anybody have anything for me? I can let you guys keep talking, but. And I learned my lesson. I will send out a notification. I always thought it was just like courtesy, but next time I'll send the email out for everybody in advance.
Are we still recording? Yeah, I
Yep,
guess. Okay.
yep, it'll be posted up. You'll be able to catch everything.
Hey, Bob, you said you use metallic powder in the mold, right? But not iron, right?
I don't think it's iron. I would have to actually get with the casting company to find out what the specific metal formulation is.
Because my mind jumped to, what was that product called? Rustall, where you paint on the iron particles and then you come out with this compound and it rusted.
Modern Masters iron paint.
That would be cool for a Nautilus.
I've been using it for 15 years. Yep. Yeah, it works really good. The original formulation was much better than the current one. It used to be that you could just use vinegar and it would rust it really good, but now you need to buy their special formulation. No, Dave, you're smirking, but I've tried it with like regular acids and it does not kick. I don't know what they did to it, but it does not kick off.
Are you letting the paint thoroughly dry before you hit it with the acid? Because I don't have any trouble. I'm using ferric chloride.
No, I haven't tried ferric chloride. I
Well,
guess.
you're either gonna kind of hit it with acid or you're gonna really hit it with acid. Hit it with acid.
Okay. Yeah, that's viable. We can try that too. But anyhow, yes, to Bob's point, I use it extensively. It's hard to get. but it's called Modern Masters Iron Paint. And you can mix it, it's water soluble. You can mix it with water to dilute it so it's not like a paste. When you get it out, it's literally like toothpaste. And so you can dilute it with water to make it more like a paint. And you just slather it. You literally drench the whole thing in it, let it dry, and then kick it off with the acid.
Somebody said white vinegar works too, doesn't it? For the, I knew the master would have something to say about that one.
I tried using that stuff to weather like boats subtly, and it doesn't work as well for scale models. I'm still a fan of
I've got some
oil paints and pastels and that kind of thing.
I've got some of that acid ordered from Amazon.
You found anything for your osmosis head for the snorkel valves yet?
I have not. I mean, I'm still using the big modules or whatever. I sent some to Dave. He promised me he was going to experiment with it, but I got a whole roll of the stuff and it worked like crap. It only breathes if it's 100% dry, which is unlike the pre-made ones, which as soon as they are out of the water, within seconds they start allowing air through. So I don't know what the difference is, but it was $100 that I spent for nothing apparently.
Well, since I missed it, this is what I've been doing all friggin' week.
Oh shit.
Holes and holes and holes and holes. Ugh.
Snorting dust.
Yeah, I'll probably die of something anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to take off. I'm going to leave the meeting in the hands of Mr. Merriman, unless anybody's got any last minute questions. For those of you coming to the trim party, so looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
We need to talk about these terminology, because trim party can be labeled as something else, and what else?
Okay, okay. All right. Let me tell you the origin of the trim party. If you served on a submarine, you know exactly what a trim party is.
Yeah, I know what a trim party is, but I'm talking
right.
about
And that's where it came from.
Yeah.
So it's a play on that. It was a play on that. We started it years ago at Ray Mason's house. We'd have the beginning of the year trim party, and it was a play on what we used to do to the chief of the watch by moving back and forth on the boat as he was pumping water back and forth. The next thing, the boat's oscillating like this. Some chief loses his coffee in the goat locker and comes yelling. Ends the party. So using the same term as the trim your boats to get them ready for the season. Because they always seem to be out of trim after sitting 6 months down in the basement. And hence the term of the trim party.
There was another term too that I can't remember what it was.
Oh, don't get pornographic on me. Not that type of trim party. No orgies for me. I'm
That's
too
what I
old
was
for
getting
that.
at, Ed, if you've been paying attention.
Yeah, Ed.
You just had to go and ruin a good thing.
Bob, do you realize that you have really opened up a can of worms, all these sub guys and stuff, and oh Lord, it's just going to be awful.
We still need to do that. I got to get it organized here in the next little bit, like an open version of this. We got to get more people in here. I'd love to hook them on the hobby, hook them on the DiveTribe, but have a one or two open versions of this. So gird your loins for proper etiquette for guests.
Ugh.
Well, I never say anything bad when there's recording, so I'll wait till after it's over with to say something.
Okay. All right.
It sounds like we should put Dave in charge of issuing all the comms, so we all get on the same time zone. So
Yeah, I'll make a great social director.
Yeah, I'd like to see him on the Love Boat. Welcome aboard, so-and-so.
Here's your
You want-
can of Vaseline, the shower's over there.
All right, I'm leaving. You guys have a great weekend, a great week. I'll see some of you earlier. Stay in touch. Let me know what's going on so you don't step in on us in an
Turn the
embarrassing
record-
situation.
Turn the recording off for a second.
If we show up early Friday, are you gonna put us to work?
Yes, Dave's coming out. He already knows he's going to be trimming out my boats for me.
He does?
Yep.
Thank you for that.
I don't know, Ed, that sounds like a lot of fun, man.
I hold your room key, so it's that or you can sleep on the street.
Just open the store for part purchases too.
Oh, yeah, I need
Those
a
of
little-
us bring cash.
I need a little will call box, that's for sure.
Hey, before you go, Bob, I actually found Dave Merriman's DD-214, and it actually says that he was never on a submarine, that he was a sailor on a Greek Vaseline tanker.
You worry about my language?
All right,
That's
I'm
a
leaving.
blow.
We'll see you guys
Even for
later.
Dave.
Bob, thanks.